Hey, listen, guys. مين عم يسمعني؟ حدا يرد.
Yes,
Yes,
doctor.
doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Can you remind me every time we meet to start recording?
Yes.
Okay. And I remember today, but remind me to start recording so students who do not attend can go back and listen to the lecture. Okay. Okay, let's start. Question. What do you know about language acquisition? How do we acquire our first language?
Well, language acquisition, I think, is the natural process of learning language. So it is not conscious. You learn it by, like when you're a baby, right?
Mm.
And well, when we learn our first language, first we listen. So the first thing babies do is just listen for 1 or 2 years, and then start talking. And after that, when they grow up, they can learn reading and writing in later stages.
So you are Uqba. Think that we learn through imitation.
Yeah, so they just listen, they have an exposure to the language, and they imitate what they hear.
Okay. Question. Wait. استنوا شوي. Some people are requesting to join. خليني اشوف بس. Okay. هلا اول مرة حتكون بداية بطيئة شوي بس خليني اشوف how I allow them to join. 1 second. Okay. Other opinions. Let me see. How do we acquire our first language? Uqba said that we are exposed to language when we are babies, infants, and then it is likely that we start to imitate.
We acquire language when the human mind interacts and be affected by the external world.
Okay, true. Okay, this is popular opinion. Okay, that we interact, true. But let me tell you this. By the end of this course, you will become experts on language acquisition, provided that بتحكوا لي دماغكم شوي, scratch your heads real good, and think about the material that will be covered in this course. You will become experts on how people or how we acquire our language. Okay? Other opinions? Let me help you out. Uqba suggested that it is imitation. If Uqba, if it is true that we learn language through imitation, why don't apes or primates, primates, like monkeys and chimpanzees. Why don't they learn language? Despite the fact that there were several attempts to teaching them language, but with minimal success.
They don't have the language ability we have.
True, true. What's that language ability that we have?
We learn our first language by interaction.
True.
It-
But the question is again, if it is interaction and imitation, why do we humans learn the language so fast and so efficiently, and other animals like primates do not learn it, despite the fact that there were attempts to teaching them language, exposed to language, plus interaction, but they succeeded minimally,
Because
a little bit,
the human language organs are more developed than the other individual.
this is true. This is true, yes. Let me give you an example about a chimpanzee, a female chimpanzee. She learned over 500 words. She learned of the meanings of over 500 words. She learned them individually. For example, this is a glass. This is a mouse. This is an ashtray. An apple. A banana. But when apples and bananas and other fruits were put together, the chimpanzee could not comprehend the fact that these different types make one class, which is fruits. Again, other people, I want other people to participate. Nagam Rifai, did you say anything about what makes us learn a language so
I
fast?
said action.
Say it again.
I said the interaction.
I say interaction. Okay. طيب. Have you heard of the language acquisition device?
No.
It is a device to where language is developed.
عم بتشوفوا المسج اللي عم ببعثها؟
Yes.
All right.
It
Write
is a
this down.
device.
Write this down or note the following. Unlike other animals, we humans are born with the mental structures. Just a second. Hello. ايه يا مخيل. شو؟ قول. ايه ايه. ومنين بتجي هاي؟ يا مخيل يا مخيل يا مخيل، الأبحاث تقدموا وجت نتيجة إيجابية، والعميد قال لي صارت بالرئاسة، حكيت معه من شي 4-5 أيام، قال لي ملفك بالوزارة. يا ربك أعلم شو عم بيصير. مم. طيب. آه. مم. طيب، مش لازم ينسأل العميد على الموضوع؟ طيب بعدين بحكيك يا مخيل، يلا ماشي حبيبي. أنا بشكرك جزيل الشكر هلكتك معي. مم. يلا إن شاء الله برجع بحكيك، أنا بالصف هلا. أوكي حبيبي، سلام. Hey, hello, I'm back with you. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, doctor.
So what I was saying, unlike other animals, we humans are born with the structure necessary for language learning. We are born with a language acquisition device. We are born with a language acquisition device. مش عم لاقي الابوستروفي. لا، مش عم لاقي الابوستروفي على الكيبورد. اوكي، حطوا له ابوستروفي عندكم. Do you see it? Broca's area. Broca is the last name of a French physician, a French surgeon, a French surgeon, جراح فرنساوي. Who worked on the human brain and found out that there is an area in the brain specialized for language learning and processing. اسمه بروكا هو. That's why they called it Broca's area. Okay. Now, because we are born with these mental structures ready for language learning, we learn language fast and efficiently. Of course, you mentioned imitation. True. We learn a lot of language through imitation, but it's not the whole story. Because there are certain things that are not learned through imitation. Let me give you a brief example. Let me give you a brief example, and what I'm discussing now, we will be discussing them in more details. Children learn, for example, and this is through imitation, that when you change a verb from the present to the past, we add ed. So they learn this rule. Okay? They learn this rule and try to apply it. Why do they try to apply it? Because, write this down, because the human brain is a rule following machine. Because the human brain is a rule following machine. So when children try to apply this rule, they have been observed to do the following. So it's not only imitation, it's mental process. They learn the rule and try to apply the rule, but the rule is not always true. This tells us that it's not only imitation. I will give you later on more examples about imitation. Okay. Did you see the syllabus of the course?
Not yet.
I uploaded it.
Is it on Team?
It is on Teams, yes.
Okay.
Other students, let me hear other students' opinion. Did you see the syllabus? Did you see the 3 references that I uploaded?
No.
No.
What do you mean, no? Wait a second, let me see.
It is on Teams, but we did not check them yet. So I can see them now.
You can see them, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see this on the screen? What do you see on the screen now?
We
Hello?
see you. Yes.
I'm trying to share something with you. Let me see how I do it. Do you see anything now other than me?
No.
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 Just me?
Yes.
مانيش عارف حدا منكم بيعرف how I could share something?
Yes, there is. I don't know on your screen. There's like a square and an arrow in it.
Okay, I'm
What?
trying this. I'm trying this.
Okay, now it's working, I think.
Okay, do you see it now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay.
Yes.
طيب, this is the syllabus or the semester plan. Okay, today we'll have an introduction as we are doing. Okay. Next week or the following class, we will be talking about first language acquisition theories. We will be talking about several theories. One of them is imitation. Another one is innateness theory.
Innateness, input,
And yes, okay. And the following week we'll be talking
cognition.
about cognitive theory or cognition, yes. And we'll be talking about stages. We'll look at Jean Piaget's theory about cognitive development and how this is how it coincides with language learning. And then we'll be talking about the cognitive, social, and linguistic development. Okay, later on we'll talk about the language acquisition device, or what's called universal grammar according to Noam Chomsky, and the critical period. Briefly, what's the critical period? Do you know what's the critical period?
It is from year 0 to 8 or 9.
Yes.
Okay, what could anybody explain it?
Can I?
Sure. Who's this?
Jinan.
Okay.
It is a period between age 0 and 8 where the LAD must be activated, or else a person who would be linguistically retarded.
Beautiful. Yes.
And during this period, the brain must be much plasticity.
It's not must be plasticity. During this period, the brain, the human brain, has a lot of plasticity. It is flexible.
Okay.
It is like a sponge. It could absorb a lot during that period, and therefore language must be introduced during that period, or else we will have some linguistic retardation, because if no language input is provided from day one until the age of 7 or 8, it is going to be very hard afterwards for children to acquire a human language. Now, why did they call it critical? Let me tell you why they called it critical. Or let me give you an example which explains this. They say the patient was taken into hospital in a critical situation. شو يعني؟
Urgent.
True. يعني something must be what? The patient was taken into hospital in a critical situation. Meaning what?
He may lose his or her life.
True. So something must be
Important.
something must be done. For example, a patient or individual was taken to hospital and bleeding heavily. نزيف حاد. ما عادش في دم بجسمه. He must be given what? He must be given what?
Blood.
Or else the patient would what?
Die.
Die.
Would die. I see. So do you understand what's meant by the critical period?
Yes.
Is a critical
Yes.
period from day 1 till the age of 7 or 8, could be 9. It is critical in the sense that language must be introduced during this period, or else the child will not learn language. All right. Let me give you an example. In the 14th century, one of the French kings, Louis الخامس عشر السادس عشر, I don't remember which Louis, who it looks like was an enlightened king. He wanted to know, or he wanted to learn, if students are not exposed to language at all when they are born, what language will they speak when they grow up? Let me repeat. He wanted to know if infants are placed in isolation and not spoken to, what language will they learn when they grow up? And he said, will they learn Latin or Arabic or Hebrew? Hebrew. So he ordered some of his soldiers to go around in the countryside and pick about 20 infants from their families. بالعربي بيعت الجنود تبعه يروحوا يجمعوا له شي 20 طفل خلقان جديد. Imagine this. It is very harsh. So the soldiers went around in the countryside بهالضيع والقرى, and they collected about 20 infants and they brought them back to the king. The king ordered the maids, بعض الخدام, to feed, bathe, and clothe the infants. أمر الخدم إنهم يطعموا, يحمموا, ويدفوا هؤلاء الأطفال. But not to talk to them in any way. Just put them there in a room, give them food, water, clothe them, wash them, but you don't talk to them in any way. Well, the conclusion of this study was disastrous. The 20 infants died. All of them died. Now, why did they die? They did not die because they contracted any viruses or any diseases They simply died because, unlike other babies in the animal world, the human infant requires a lot of care and attention, and especially warmth, love, and tenderness. These infants were not given any of this, just food, clothing, and washing them. Now, even had they survived, they would not have spoken any human language because they were not spoken to in any way, and therefore their language acquisition device became dormant, retarded. It was not triggered or activated. And therefore, their language acquisition device was not triggered or given the proper input during the critical period. Let me give you another example which illustrates this point better. The year 1799, in the year 1799, a boy of about 11 or 12 years of age was captured in a forest near Paris called Aveyron. بغابة اسمها Aveyron. So a boy of 11 or 12 years of age, boy was captured in the forest of Aveyron near Paris in 1799. When the boy was brought to Paris, he attracted a huge crowd because they expected to see what was called a human who was not corrupted by human civilization. لأنه عايش وين بالطبيعة, lived in nature. So they expected to see what's called the savage, noble savage. متوحش, but noble. As I said, because it was thought that the boy was not corrupted by human civilization. He's natural, like other good things in nature. But what they found was not noble at all. The boy resembled animals more than resembled humans. Did not speak any language. Only a guttural sound produced from his throat. Only a guttural sound was produced from his throat. He jumped up and down like monkeys in a cage. كان ينط لفوق لتحت مثل الثعابين بقفص. When he chewed, when he ate, when he chewed like rodents. مثل الجرذان أو الفيران. He would eat and shit and pee in the same place, simply like animals. He was 11 or 12, and therefore he was beyond the critical period. And therefore, teaching him a language was very difficult. Anyway, a French doctor assumed the process of taking care of him physically and mentally, and tried to teach him human language. The physician's name, I think, Dr. Itard. The boy lived till the age of 38, died young, but learned very, very little human language. He only learned some words, could not make a sentence, subject, verb, object, simply because he was exposed to human language beyond the critical period when the human brain lost most of its plasticity.
So, doctor, in this case, this children was like the chimpanzee that you have talked about first. They could learn some individual words, but not the structure of the language.
True, because the language acquisition device became retarded simply because it was not activated at the right time. So the critical period is really critical. It is so important for language learning. Now you became so knowledgeable about language learning. I'm talking about first language learning. اللي بينساها الله يعينه. Okay? Let me give you another example which proves the same point. There are certain things in us humans that are based on certain time activation. If not activated, they will not function right later on. Let me give you an example. If a human infant, be it a boy or a girl, is taken immediately after birth and placed in a dark room for the first 6 months of his or her life, in a dark room for the first 6 months of his or her life, what do you think will happen to the infant's eye vision or seeing ability? What do you expect?
Maybe he lost his sight.
Maybe he'll.
Lost his sight.
I want a complete sentence. I want a complete sentence. يلا مين كان بيحكي؟ زهرة.
Zahra, yes.
Yes, I want a complete sentence.
If the child is put in is placed in a dark room, he may be is not able to see, or his
Okay.
sight
No,
will be affected negatively.
Okay, Anna, I wanted you to really practice your English. You said at the beginning he will lost his eyesight. He will lose his eyesight. In other words, believe it or not, he or she will become blind. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? Hello? Okay. Again, if a child is put in a dark room for the first 6 months of his or her life, he or she will become blind. Why? Because this is a critical period also for the human eye's ability to see. When the human is born, the human eye needs light in order to develop. إذا ما كانش في ضوء, it doesn't interact at all. It dies out. So the human eye needs light during the critical period in order to become able to see. In the same way, the human infant needs language input in order for language learning or for the language acquisition device to become active during the critical period. Okay. Listen. صرنا 45 46 دقيقة. A 5-6 minutes break and I'll come back. I'll keep it on, okay?
Okay, Doc.
Okay.
يلا. احنا معنا 75 دقيقة, okay? يلا. I'll be back. Hello, I'm back. Let me see who's attending for a second.
Yes.
Wallahi, not bad. 26 students. This is good as a beginning. Okay. Remember, I stressed the point that the critical period is so critical. Let me give you an example also, which illustrates this. An Egyptian pharaoh, Pharaoh, an Egyptian pharaoh during the 7th century BC before Christ. BC before Christ. Okay. Believed that language is inborn and that children associated from birth, they will develop the language that they born with. In other words, if their parents were Arabs and they were born to Arab parents and that they were not spoken to in any way, they will speak Arabic. Same thing if they were English or German or Egyptian, because he believed that language is innate and learning has nothing to do with it. So he isolated two children. And it was reported that the two children who lived in isolation spoke the following. Let me write it down. That they spoke Phrygian, an Indo-European language. أخذتوا معي الهيستوري؟ No, ما أخذتوش الهيستوري. That they spoke Phrygian and Indo-European language, which was spoken in present-day Turkey. So according to this pharaoh, اسمه غريب عجيب Psammetichus. عمل هذه الدراسة على ولدين who lived in isolation, and he claimed that they spoke Persian and that it looks like that they were born to Persian parents and therefore they spoke Persian. Do you believe it?
It's hard to believe, actually. I don't know.
Yes. Okay.
Doctor?
Mm.
Yeah. Can you please repeat the last idea? You said he isolated the kids and they ended up learning the same language as their parents?
Yes.
Or I heard...
No, true. And that he believed that this was the original language of their parents. And that this was the original language of their parents. But this is not true. He believed that we speak, even if we are not spoken to, we are likely to speak the language of our parents, as if we genetically inherit language. But this is not true. What's true is that we are born with the mental structures, the language acquisition device, or Broca's area in our brain. We are born with these mental structures ready for language learning. Language learning will not take place unless we have enough input, enough language data, linguistic data, in addition to interaction with a social environment. So the language acquisition device on its own doesn't work. Interaction by itself is not enough. So it's a combination of these factors. A final example, let me give you a final example. Akbar a 16th century Mughal emperor in India. A 16th century Mughal emperor of India, Imperator al-Hind al-Magholi, he desired to learn whether language was innate or acquired through exposure to the speech of adults. He, Akbar, believed that language was learned by people listening to each other, and therefore a child could not develop language alone. So he ordered a house built for 2 infants and stationed a mute nurse. Stationed a mute nurse to care for them. The children did not acquire speech, which seemed to prove Akbar's hypothesis that language is acquired and does not simply emerge spontaneously in the absence of exposure to speech. He had a good point, which proves the point that if language is not provided during the critical period, when the brain has a lot of plasticity, little or no learning will take place afterwards. Okay. طيب. We still have about 10-15 minutes. Let me introduce you to a new topic that we will continue next session. Question, write the question down. How did language originate? How did language originate? Yani the question is to you. Did the first humans speak? What do you think?
No, he may speak, but not our language for today. Maybe sign.
I think it's not really known whether they spoke the language or not. There are different theories about if the humans came first with a language or they developed it over time. And I don't think there is a distinct opinion about that.
True. Now, the story of Adam and Eve. When Adam and Eve were sent to earth, so people, or many people, believe that Adam and Eve were the first humans, and that we are the children of Adam and Eve. Right?
Yeah.
Do you think that they spoke language?
Well, according to religion, they did.
According to Uqba Zarda, true. وين شفيقة؟ شفيقة دنيا وينه؟
Yes, doctor.
What do you think?
Yeah.
The ancient man spoke language like we do?
No.
Huh?
No.
No?
No.
ميسون الفيل، سكري الخط يا شفيقة، سكري خطك. ميسون الفيل، وين ميسون الفيل؟
Yes, doctor.
What do you think, يا ميسون? Did ancient man speak the same type of language that we speak?
No, I don't think so.
You don't think so? So you don't believe the story of Adam and Eve?
Yes, مبالغ بس أنا they first talk with the signs يعني.
With signs. Wait a second. Okay. So they use signs. Noor, what do you think, Noor?
I think that language is originated first by sounds like crying or something like that, then it was elaborated by time
Can
to be a language.
you repeat? By time. آلاء الحاج وين آلاء الحاج؟
Yes, doctor.
What do you think? The original humans on Earth, did they speak language or language developed by time? Or what do you think of the story of Adam and Eve? If you believe the story of Adam and Eve, you must believe that the first humans spoke language. What do you think?
Yes, yes, they spoke language.
They spoke. So you don't think that language learning progressed?
Language developed, but they didn't speak the language that we speak now.
No, we're talking about any language. A language, any language is a language. Be it a simple language or a sophisticated language like Arabic or English or French.
I think it was a sophisticated language and they use signs also.
Awesome. Okay.
I think if we use the theory of language acquisition of the critical period, it might be impossible for humans to learn language if there was no one first speaking it. Because as we said, it's impossible to learn it if they did not learn it in the critical period. So,
Well, if they spoke any language, any form of language, well, I'm sure there was interaction because the humans, the ancient man, was a social animal, lived in groups, did not live in isolation. They could not live in isolation on their own. They had to live together in order to survive because life was very dangerous in the old times. They needed to be together in order to defend themselves for protection, for food gathering, etc. So they were living together and a lot of interaction took place. Now, do you think that the old man had the same brain size like the brains we have now?
No,
A smaller brain?
their ability to understand was lower than the ability of us nowadays. Doctor, we cannot hear you clearly.
الو الو راح الارسال شوي تسمعوني هلا؟
Yes.
Yes, doctor.
Okay. Okay. Question. For how long have humans lived on Earth?
Thousands years ago.
How long?
For thousands years ago.
For thousands of years. For thousands of years, I think. Could it be millions of years?
I don't think so.
Okay. Based on what, يا زهرة? Fatima Saleh, what do you think? For how long do you think people lived on Earth?
Doctor, and the human languages that was recorded are not يعني related to millions years ago.
No, the human language that we know is maybe based on records, is perhaps 7,000 years old. But I'm sure language was older. Now there are no records which can prove that language is perhaps 100,000 years old or 1,000,000 years old. No records to prove this. هلا بالحضارة السومرية في كان الكتابة المسمارية. Okay, writing on rocks using pieces of iron مثل مسامير. This is about perhaps 6,000 years old. The point I want to tell you is that I don't know if you really believe in the story of Adam or Eve. If you believe in the story of Adam and Eve, things become easier. Well, God sent Adam and Eve to earth, and when he sent them to earth, when God sent them to earth, they spoke language, and this is it. You don't have to think about it. But as students, as scholars, as researchers, we must try to find answers to our questions. To me, I think, no, Adam and Eve did not speak any language. I think language grew as we humans developed from one form to another. Our brains were smaller than our brains now. We developed. Now, did we humans develop and advance from some types of primates? هل كنا نحن صاعدين سابقا and developed? Don't you think that we are صاعدين but became smarter?
I don't think so, doctor.
مين عم يحكي؟ يمنى؟
يمنى جاري.
لا
Yes,
شيء
يمنى
يمنى.
جاري.
طيب أنا حخليك تحكي بس let me ask you a question. اسمعي شوي.
Yeah.
روحي على محل ألعاب ولاد في مراجيح ونطيطات وما بعرف شو إلى آخره. خذي لك شي 10-15 ولد. Don't they resemble monkeys?
Our action maybe were more يعني close to animal, but يعني ال human body أو هيك شيء no.
No, I disagree with you, يا يمنى. Did you know, يا يمنى, that we and primates, يعني عم نحكي about gorillas and chimpanzees and other kinds of monkeys, that we humans and primates share 98% of similar DNA map?
Yes, doctor, I know about that, but according to our beliefs, يعني, that human is different from gorilla and animals in such a little percent. Not
Okay.
it's not important how much we are different, but we are different. Yeah.
Okay.
According to our brains.
Yes.
Yeah.
عقبة, what do you want to say, عقبة?
Yes, I don't think we have evolved from monkeys to become human, and the evolution is still a theory, not actually being proven until now. And so there is no actual proof that we were monkeys, and I don't choose to believe that too.
Okay.
We think that monkeys were human and they degraded to the level of animal.
maybe so. طيب نحن خلصنا. It's over 75 minutes now. Let me ask you to do some research on Homo sapiens.
On what, doctor?
Homo sapiens.
Homo sapiens, the Neanderthal man. Okay, I'm talking here about ancient man. Do some research about them and see how they advanced from one level to another. And that old man had a smaller brain than ours. And there was something happened, I don't know, maybe about 300,000 years ago, where the Neanderthal man became extinct, انقرض, and Homo sapien appeared with a larger brain, smarter. Okay, I wanted to do research on this and we'll continue on Wednesday. Okay,
Okay, doctor.
take care of yourselves, guys. Hope you enjoyed the first lecture.
Thank you, doctor. We did.
Okay, take care.
Thank you, doctor.
Thank you. Salam to you all.